What? The learning speed is too fast. It wasn't like that until yesterday. I can only say that it is an innate talent. In particular, her swordsmanship is so excellent that it cannot be considered that of a 12-year-old girl. Oops. He swallowed, thinking he had made a mistake. Fortunately, the sound was not that loud, so they did not notice its presence. I probably should have acted worse. But how could I claim it was worse than that? She did the best she could. I see. After all, she is Roderick Weishafen's daughter. He looks like his father, who only cares about swordsmanship. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. He hopes his skills will improve quickly so he can stab his father in the back. But fortunately, both Byron and Cloud seem to accept his abilities as natural talents. In reality, it was not a natural talent. His blood was obtained through his own efforts. When I was 12, I wasn't that good with daggers. He had to explain to Byron several times that his abilities were not developing as well, and each time he prayed that his hands would become feet. And she always tried. For his father, who was everything in his life. To avenge his father. To receive the love of his father. When Laura closed the door and locked her in, she practiced swordsmanship by brandishing a stick in the dark. Even as he lay down and closed his eyes, he thought about what Cloud taught him during the day. Until the moment she fell asleep. That was the skill he acquired. Now he realized that it was a futile effort. Then, from now on, don't give up that girl's job. I hope you raise her to be a useful assassin. Yes, my lord. I will obey your orders. And is there anything else to report? It seemed like she wasn't talked about much anymore, so Isla sighed. But she couldn't seem to relax. The information he heard from now on could be more important. It is said that the Knights of Weishafen appeared in a town beyond the forest. They said they were asking if there were abandoned fortresses, caves, or bandit dwellings in this forest. Did you follow me here again? You are so persistent. Byron spoke harsh words in an angry voice. It seems that he had been wandering for this reason. Her father, Roderick. She was heartbroken by the fact that he did not give up and continued to send knights to locate Byron, who kidnapped her daughter and disappeared. What shall we do, my lord? What do I have to do? What do I have to do? I have to go. Yeah. We will find a suitable place as soon as possible. As he listened to the stories that kept coming, it seemed that he would soon leave this fortress. I discovered the secret passage. Will you be leaving soon? Heavens! She grumbled inwardly. He had only been able to use the secret passage he discovered for one day, and he couldn't help but feel sad about having to leave. Still, it might be useful until it's gone. If you're done looking, go. I said to prepare water for the bath and massage along the way. Did I overdo it today? I'm tired. Yes, my lord. Rest in peace. It seemed like the story was over. If I told him to prepare his bath water, it seemed like he had nothing more to gain by staying here. After bathing, Byron would surely drink as he always did and then go to bed. Isla quietly closed the door she had left ajar and hid again in the gap in the wall. Not long after she hid, the door opened and Cloud came out. She held her breath until he disappeared down the hallway, then she walked back through the secret passage and back to her room. Fortunately, Isla's secret night was not discovered. In a way, she didn't know that this was a natural result. I would never have thought that it would be possible to escape from a room blocked on all sides by stone walls. Thanks to this, he was able to roam freely around the fortress every night for several days before leaving. He tried to explore the secret passage, but did not gain any significant benefit. Most of the hallways were unusable because they didn't even know if there was an entrance to a hidden hallway, and furniture was placed on top of it. Some weapons were found in the hallways, but they were all rusted and unusable due to lack of proper maintenance. They were weapons that seemed to have been manufactured at least 100 years ago. Still, it was much easier to move around at night because he secretly took one of his washed workout clothes and hid it in the hallway. This training uniform could be worn every night and then secretly put back into the laundry room just before leaving the fort. The most fruitless thing was watching Byron. She couldn't tell what he was doing because he always trained during the day, but since she could watch him at night, she thought maybe she could find some clues to help her figure out what he was planning. He always locked himself in his room, reading and writing countless letters. It would be nice if she could sneak into his room and steal the letter to read it, but he rarely left his room at night. He had to leave the room for a moment to wash before going to bed, but he couldn't get in because the door was locked. He even wondered if he could sneak through the window. However, there were no trees near the large south-facing window of his room, and it was clearly exposed to the fortress courtyard, so sneaking in through the window seemed too dangerous. It seems that until he moved, he wouldn't be able to get more information. Then, a few days later, Mississippi were leaving the fortress tomorrow morning, so go to bed early, Laura said as she put Isla to bed early in the night. You should go to bed immediately and do nothing else. You will be tired because you will have to camp for a few days. Okay, I understand. Isla knew that if she didn't respond, they would watch her until she responded again, so she responded obediently. Laura seemed to like this, cleared her throat, and locked the door again. Isla sighed deeply. He sighed as he thought about sleeping by the fire in the middle of the forest for a few days. Although it was difficult to sleep on the floor in a sleeping bag next to Laura, this situation was considerably worse. That was because they couldn't lock her outdoors. This is not the time. I have to put my training clothes back on. She would have already packed everything because she was leaving the next day, but since the clothes were still leaking, she ended up packing them separately. After this, he didn't have another chance to get his training clothes. There was an option of leaving it in the hallway, but it was risky because if a training uniform disappeared like that every time she moved, it might arouse suspicion at some point. He waited in the room for a while until sunset and went out through the underground passage as usual. He was trying to sneak into the room where the clothes and cleaning supplies were kept to avoid people, but he held his breath when he felt a sign of presence in the room. There is someone. 2 people. No, there are 3 people. It was a disaster. I needed to quickly put the clothes back away before they ran out, but there was someone there. What could be gathering here when they were so busy preparing to leave? It was really a suspicious situation. Let's hear what they're talking about. After confirming that there was no one around, he put his face close to the door and listened. Sister-in-law, It was Cloud's voice. Sister-in-law? Isla, who didn't even know Cloud had an older brother, let alone a sister-in-law, strained her ears and focused on the voice coming out. It's that sound again, Cloud. Don't you want to avenge your brother? A sharp female voice questioned Cloud. It was definitely a voice she was familiar with, but she couldn't remember if it was one she hadn't heard in a long time. No. It just bothers me to cheat on a girl like that. Dude, what are you talking about? Have you forgotten what that girl's father did? My father died in his hands. This time, the voice of a girl different from the previous woman intervened and she became angry. This was a voice that she couldn't understand. Laura. It was the voice of her maid, Laura. It seems that the girl and boy they were talking about were Isla. I know, Laura. I know, but... Laura, you were only 8 years old when it happened. I don't even remember exactly what happened to my father. Cloud spoke softly. However, Laura became angrier at Cloud's voice and raised her voice. Don't treat me like a child. At that age you can remember practically everything. Especially if it is such a terrible memory of his father's death and the whole family having to flee as if they were being chased. Laura's voice was full of resentment. If our master's plan is not successful, we will have to flee as criminals forever. I can't let Laura live that kind of life. My husband, your brother. You must not continue being a sinner. The voice of the woman Cloud called his sister-in-law was calm, but she spoke in a tone that seemed to burn with anger. And soon, Laura's voice agreed with him. That's how it is. My father should be recorded as a knight who died honorably while protecting his master. For that to happen, I can serve that enemy's daughter for 100 or 1,000 years.